Do you rock some jockeys underneath those, or?
I don't think we're going to talk about our underwear situation on the podcast, Johnny.
Because I just got these pajama shorts on right now. I got pockets. I got like a waistline tie. I am comfortable as shit, I'll tell you what.
This is not the conversation I thought we were going to be having.
That's what made it such an interesting conversation. It started so salaciously, and then it immediately jumped to what is going on in my not-so-sweaty crotch.
Did you guys see?
I tell you, I'm getting a lot of air down here, and it's really working out.
I hate
guys. If you got a problem with swalls, I'm telling you, La Vie en Rose.
Well, all right.
Did you guys see the fucking dog lists that went up over the weekend?
Yeah, what was that about?
So people were asking in the comments what the story was, so I'll tell it here. Johnny, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I read both of these.
Okay, so for people who are listening who might not know, Blister Thumbs runs like little fun top 5, top 10 lists on the weekends because there's not a lot of news. You know, we don't have a lot of like content to bring you because games come out on Tuesdays, so that's when most of our reviews hit. There's just not a lot going on, so we just throw them up. They're fun, whatever. So I woke up on Saturday morning. Gabe had saved a draft of his top 5 dogs in gaming list. And that's normally fine. You know, people leave drafts for me to edit and post for them. It's just standard procedure. I looked over it and I was like, this is not acceptable. I was like, there's too many missing entries. I cannot, in good consciousness, post this. So I tried. He wasn't on Skype. I tried to talk to him on Twitter. He wasn't there. I didn't have his phone number. I was like frantically trying to get in contact with him because...
You just had to have it your way, didn't you, Austin?
Well, here's the thing. I realized after, like, a bit there how fucking stupid the whole thing was. Like, just all of it. Just video games, lists, dogs, just like every single concept involved in this incident was just...
Dogs that may or may not be dogs.
All of it was profoundly stupid. And I couldn't contact him because I was just going to say, hey, you know, 5 is kind of a, you know... You could probably bump it up to 10, you know. Lists are, by their very nature, kind of lazy pieces to begin with. There's no reason why you couldn't pad it out a little bit. So I just decided to make my own list, not only including like the entries that I wanted, but also just kind of taking the piss out of the entire list thing, basically. Because, I mean, me and Sean were arguing about whether or not Red 13 from Final Fantasy VII is a dog.
He has dog-like qualities.
It's interesting. I actually did a little research. Like, they call him a dog in the game, but it's not like any reliable sources. It's just like characters, so they could be wrong. And it also depends on the animation. Like in some art, he has a very like canine snout, and some he does not. So it's hard to tell. The best official description I could find just calls him like a lion-like beast.
That is wolf-like.
It's lion or wolf-like.
Yeah, lion-wolf-like.
So that's not helpful. But basically... someone asked, was I drunk? Was it a bet or something? Like, it just honestly came about as I had a bunch of ideas I wanted to add, and I couldn't find a way to integrate them into that one, so I decided just to make fun of everyone. I think that's funny. I like just being... I like writing articles that are terrible on purpose, because that way, if they entertain people, it was a success, and then, or if people don't like them, it's kind of it's also a success, because it was a shit article to begin with.
I'm kind of glad that I am now not the only author, the only writer on Blistered Thumbs to be accused of being drunk while I was writing something. That makes me feel better now.
Hey, join the club. Apparently I do videos drunk.
But you did, though. Me and Johnny weren't drunk when we were accused of being so.
That's true.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Guess My Secret Shame. Yes, Guess My Secret Shame, the podcast game show where we dig through our contestants' pasts and dig up some very, very entertaining secret shames that they have in their past. And then through the process of listing the feelings and emotions associated with those secret shames, we try and get them to guess them for cash. The rub being that when they guess correctly, is it because they know what the secret shame is? Today, let's find out. I'm your host, Johnny Maloney, and I'm joined today with our two contestants, Mr. Austin Yorsky, the returning champ and most shameful man I've ever met. Austin, how are you?
Apparently, I'm very shameful. I didn't know that.
Joining us, and today we've got probably the most handsome man in all of mid to northern California, Mr. Taylor Hoyt. Taylor, how you doing?
Not shameful enough, apparently.
All right, so, gentlemen, you've been briefed on the rules backstage, but just a quick recap for the audience. What I'm going to do is I am going to start listing out feelings and or sensations, physical or emotional, related to one of the secret shames that one of the two of you have had in your past. Now, when you guys have figured this out, simply ring your buzzer in and guess what the shame is. Remembering, of course, that if you're the first person to guess the shame, you are under deep suspicion that you are in fact responsible for it. So, round one. Here we go. Our first secret shame is associated with itching, tenderness, sweatiness.
Austin, are you clear on the rules? I don't know what the rules are.
I think I'm gonna buzz in and say, Johnny, this is way too confusing for an intro.
No, I'm afraid the answer is nicking your genitalia while shaving it with a lady's razor. The answer was nicking your genitalia while shaving it with a lady's razor. Okay, so no cash goes to our contestants for question number one. We'll move on to question number two. Moistness.
What the fuck?
Odor.
Oh, what is taking a bath with your cat?
That is correct, Taylor Hoyt.
Yeah, I'm the winner.
What the fuck?
And now, of course, we poll the audience. We have to poll the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, did Taylor Hoyt take a bath with his cat? All right, now, if the audience is correct on this one, in the comments below, of course, we'll move on to the lightning round. But that's got to wait for the next day. So I'm gonna move right on to round three. Okay, round three.
Can I just jump in here and ask Taylor? Do you even have a cat?
I don't.
I don't have a cat either. Is this? Never mind. Fuck, Johnny. Just go. Just go.
What, like leave?
That's not what I was saying, but now that you mention it,
I'm sorry. That seemed like really authoritative. You're like, Johnny, go. Just go, Johnny.
Just leave.
just go. Don't look back. Don't turn around. Just go.
I think we need you to finish this.
All right. Okay. Are we moving on to the next round then? All right, next round.
Sure.
Unless we can stop you, can you think of a way, Taylor, that we can put an end to this?
I'd like to use my daily double.
Okay, well, nobody's tried that before. I'm curious to see where this goes. I will allow it.
I will do something if you stop and let us talk about video games.
Saltiness, fibrous, dampness,
Johnny?
the screaming of your little sister.
Oh, Jesus.
This just took a really weird turn.
No, I'm sorry, the answer is eating your little sister's hair.
Can we not? Can we not, Johnny? Just not.
I guess. I don't know where your guys' minds went. Gee, what sort of secret shames do you fellas have?
Just not, Johnny. Just not.
Just not?
No.
We're done?
I'm putting my foot down.
Yeah.
As the person who doesn't want to do this anymore.
Stands to lose the most.
Actually, when I was writing that dog article, I had a very distinct thought pop into my mind. Why haven't I been fired yet? There's no reason that I'm still here.
I wonder that every day. Not about you. I just, specifically. More about us as a collective. All right, well, if nobody's into playing What's My Secret Shame, that's...
I think it needs to be retooled a little bit and rebooted and a little more more easy to understand format because mostly you were just saying words and I was feeling uncomfortable.
More visual cues, maybe?
I don't think any of that, I don't want to see any of that visually represented.
A flashy set, maybe? Some strobe lights? A tanning bed? I don't know why a tanning bed, but, you know. These things. Sometimes you need orange skin to do them.
Taylor, he was well behaved last week, and then you show up and everything just goes fucking sideways.
I don't know what to tell you. That's just my charm, I guess.
It's true. Taylor brings out the beast in me.
What can I say? I have a special talent.
Well, I guess we could talk about video games. If you guys don't want to talk about your secret shames, which I already know about, and am maybe willing to sell to listeners.
Actually, I'm interested, where did this idea come from? Were you having some deep personal reflection earlier, and you're like, I must inflict this on others?
I'm not sure where this one came from, actually. Sometimes there's a very distinct, cue during the course of the day where I'm like, that's a great leaping off point for, a weird idea that should probably not be explored, but maybe mentioned. This one? I don't know. I had a different idea. I remember that I had a different idea earlier on in the day, and then when I got home to do the podcast, I forgot about it, and I honestly can't remember where the idea came up. Weird. Let's not linger on it, because the further we delve, I think, into the reaches of my mind that are responsible for these segments on the podcast, the more difficult it will be to come back.
I'm pretty much just speechless at this point.
Well, let's move on then, gentlemen. Video games. They're a thing these days.
No, I don't believe you.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Yeah. I mean, despite the fact that just about every publisher out there I can think of is trying to prove that stipulation completely wrong by making them less video gamey, is the point. And more like a cavalcade of different experiences, more movie qualities, more feels, more emotional qualities, more online active social interactions. It's like you can't sit down and play a video game anymore without it having its own Facebook plugin. Am I right?
Yeah, I hear that Got Home or Gone Home's got some feels to it. That's what I hear.
Actually, as we speak, Sean is writing our review, and I'm going to go ahead and say, because he asked earlier if he was allowed to give it a 10. Let me check if that's what he's doing, logging into the site. I think that's what he's doing, so.
He's allowed to give it a 10. Okay.
At least he did say that he hands 10s out like candy, though.
Yeah.
I was glad that he confessed to that he knows that. I'm happy about that.
I actually want to do some kind of post or something, like all the games Blister Thumbs have ever given a 10 in our history. I know Kid Icarus, Red Dead Redemption, The Walking Dead, and I want Little Big Planet 2. And
not Portal 2.
Nope.
Because I had a say in that.
It's because you reviewed it.
I might have given Tactics Ogre a 10. I can't remember.
I think you did. Was that the PSP remake?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think you did. There was maybe 8 games in our 2.5 years or some such.
That's not bad.
Yeah. So Gone Home will be the latest, but yeah, I think Sean has given the majority of them. We were discussing this earlier because it seems like he might be the most lenient reviewer, but I think it's mostly just because I give him all the good games.
He does get quite a lot of good games, particularly if you actually judge the kind of the arc of the industry nowadays. He gets a lot of the indie titles, a lot of the cutting edge stuff, a lot of the stuff that has had years to distill a classic mechanisms and come out of the gate with a really, really strong take on it, strong art designs and strong feels.
Actually,
but not emotion feels, but just the way the game radiates, the way that the player and the game have a relationship. That's one of the things actually I've noticed about a lot of the games that Sean does review, is that they bank on having a very, very specific relationship with the gamer.
I think all this talk of reviews is a nice natural transition into something I wanted to talk about. Not quite news. I mean, it's BT news, but did you guys see Yusuf's review of The Wonderful 101?
I was just about to mention that. I don't think Yusuf likes games anymore.
So, for those who are not aware, Platinum's newest Wii U exclusive, The Wonderful 101, is about to come out in, like, I think a couple weeks in the UK and then, like, a month in North America. And the embargo went up yesterday. And Yusuf, once again, is the fucking lightning rod of controversy. He gave it a 3 out of 10. He did not like it at all. And the internet was none too pleased with him. There are hate threads on NeoGAF, Reddit, on N4G, GameFAQs. Anywhere you want to go where angry people congregate, you will find them talking about Yusuf's review.
I think this is kind of what I took away from this is what Jim Sterling tends to do is if there's like a feature in a game that he really hates, it seems to ruin the entire experience for him, and he gives the game a lower score because of it. Like one game that I reviewed for the site that he also reviewed was Blood Rain Betrayal or something like that. It was a WayForward 2D side scroller, and I want to say Jim Sterling gave it like a 2 or a 3 or something, and I gave it a 7. It was really hard. There were some segments that were just you want to throw your controller or break it, and I think it just ruined the whole experience for him. And Yusuf's review made it sound like there were some control things that were hard to get over, and that just ruined the entire experience for him, basically, is what I took away from it.
I think it comes down to a couple of things. I think one of the biggest things is our review scale, because ours is much harsher than a lot of sites. I imagine if Yusuf worked for IGN or something, it would have been a more normal score with the same feelings and text. So that's one of my biggest things, because I mean, if there is a big glaring flaw in a game, like something as fundamental as controls, can you really just say, oh, you know, whatever, it's good, 7? Like, what's even the point of using numbers? In fact, someone sent Yusuf's review to the game's director. I'm going to pronounce it wrong. I think Kamiya. Is that how you pronounce the man's name? The father of Resident Evil.
You
don't know how to pronounce his name? Or I thought you were, like, in love with him or something.
I love everything he touches. I'm not good at name pronunciation. I can barely pronounce my own.
Hideki Kamiya is how you say it.
And someone asked him if he had an opinion on it, and he just said, nope.
Yeah. Seriously, couldn't give 2 tugs of a dead dog's cock about it. And I respect that.
Yeah, he's a really self-assured kind of guy. He's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and you either deal with it or don't. He just doesn't let anyone get him down. It's pretty cool.
There was like one of the tweets around there when somebody was like, grr, rage, arg, Yusuf bad, where he was like, score, 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 score. Just believe in yourself. And I was like, yeah, rainbow power. No, I mean, like, I really was kind of like that, actually, about just believing in yourself, about not necessarily getting validation of your tastes or your efforts from, you know, numbers some dude puts up on a website.
Yeah. The Wonderful 101's been getting all kinds of scores, 7s, 8s, 9s, but that's kind of the range that we see professional reviewers use. Not a lot of things are outside that range, you know? So for most people, 7 is bad. So
it's at least negligible. I mean, like, if you see a game with a 7, you're going to think to yourself, maybe I should skip that one. Because this other one's an 8.5 or a 9.
Well, speaking of Platinum Games and stuff, I don't know if you guys frequent NeoGAF, but there's this guy on NeoGAF. His forum name is Crazy Buttocks on a Train. That's his forum tag. And every once in a while, like right before big conferences, he posts like this indistinguishable thread of like leaks, because apparently he's some big industry guy, and he posts all these leaks about what's going to happen, and he's like right 85% of the time. And one of the things that he posted for Gamescom / Tokyo Game Show was that Microsoft was either going to publish a Platinum's game title or they're buying them or something like that. He made it sound like Platinum Games was in cahoots with Microsoft. So interested to hear what you guys think of that, if that rumor ends up being true.
I've said before, and I'll say it again, I love everything that Platinum touches pretty much, and even when they were Clover Studios, I thought they made some of the best games in the industry. Although, and I'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about what we played later, I did play the demo of The Wonderful 101, and I didn't like it. To me, it just was not fun. I mean, maybe, you know, I got to play the whole thing to get a better sense of it, but I'm just not super impressed with this effort. And I don't know. As far as Platinum getting bought up by another company, as long as they continue to make good games, I'll be there. I'm not really gonna get into like any kind of console war stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's kind of how I feel too. Like, I don't see myself buying a Wii U anytime soon, but hey, if they can make Bayonetta 2 and the Wonderful 101 and whatever else they decide to make next, that's cool. Like, you know, they gotta make money to keep their studio up, so that means going exclusive for a couple more games with Microsoft, then whatever.
Yeah, Platinum has always had a weird publishing arrangement. They were stuck with Sega for years, and now they're with Nintendo. I guess they kind of just hop from publisher to publisher. And I guess when their contract's up to Nintendo, I wouldn't be surprised to see them jump on Microsoft's wagon if that's where they're wanted.
I have to imagine, not to get too far down the rabbit hole with Platinum, because I know Johnny loves that, but you have to imagine that Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance 2 is in the works, or in some kind of pre-production stage, because that game sold way better than I think Konami thought it would.
Hey,
yeah.
I'm still waiting for Revengeance to come out on PC. Last I heard it was, before that it wasn't, and before that it was. Before that it wasn't, before that it was, but the last I heard it was. But maybe it isn't now, but I think it is.
It's supposed to. Also, there was a poll, I think it was either on the official Konami or like Platinum Facebook or website or something, asking what people wanted in the sequel. So,
yeah, because I would imagine that game sold well over 1 million copies by now.
Which is here's a statistic that came out today. Nintendo is only shipping 20,000 units of the Wonderful 101 to Japan.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so few.
Maybe
That's
they
like
know
nothing.
something. Maybe they know something that people who haven't played the game don't.
Like it's garbage, or I mean, it looks charming. It seems like the story is really neat, and like the art style looks neat. But I mean, it's a video game, so it's got to be fun to play, right?
It better be, or there's going to be trouble.
Or Johnny's gonna get his revengeance.
I better get my revengeance regardless. I want to play that game.
I'm not even kidding, Johnny. I'm gonna sell if and when it comes out on PC. I'm gonna sell my PS3 copy and rebuy it just for 1080p 60 frames on PC.
You know it, baby.
Oh yeah.
I just don't think the Wonderful 101 is going to sell very well either, whether or not it's good. I didn't enjoy what I played of it, and neither did Yusuf. But I don't know. I think this might be the God Hand of Platinum. If you remember Clover, I'll get into God Hand. That's one of the games I played this week.
I'm familiar with this game.
But does anybody else want to say anything about this review controversy? Because, I mean, we've been down this road before with Yusuf, with Halo and God of War.
Yeah, it's nothing new to me.
Yeah.
Every time he scores anything below a 5, I'm like, oh, that crazy Brit. He's doing it again. Gosh.
Hey, you got to give him credit for being just honest with his opinion. I can commend him for that.
That's the thing, is that I can't understand for the life of me why people are getting angry when he is, like, essentially by giving a game a score like this, he's saying, you might not like it.
And the other thing, too, is this game, I mean, you said the game's not out for weeks. Like, how do people know if it's good? He's beaten the game, and they played a demo, if anything. So you can't even argue with him, really.
Yeah, it's, in any case, Yusuf, what a guy. I love his beard. It's great.
I always say that people don't actually want reviews. They just want to hear what they want to hear. They just want their opinion parroted back at them. Yep. So I think that's what this is all about, really. I would rather have Yusuf's, even if I disagree, I would rather have his honest opinion than him just lie to make me feel better.
Austin, I'll lie to make you feel better all day, baby.
Johnny, can you give us a minute?
Now I feel uncomfortable.
All right, do you guys want to move on to the first story, or do you want to talk about our site more? Because we are so important and influential.
Well, you know, I was kind of wondering, like, with like how Blizzard Thumb stands in the grand scale of gamingness, but like consistently, because I frequent NeoGAF, like I have an account there. And usually whenever there's a review thread for a game, like people always post the Blistered Thumbs review, which is I think kind of cool. And they mention it like it's like a big time thing. So
yeah, as if like we have opinions to be respected or something like that.
I think we are certainly a very small fish in a very big pond. But I think what people appreciate about BT is that since we are kind of under the radar, we can say things that other sites are afraid to say. We can call out bullshit. We can, more or less get away with things that other sites can't.
All I know is that I'm frightened when I consider the possibility that there are people out there taking me too seriously.
That's why I do things like that dog article. I don't want anyone thinking that we're too professional. We got to keep the street cred, the indie cred.
Yeah.
Well,
good
funny.
job, Austin.
When I went to the Nippon Ichi event earlier this year, I met some guys that worked at Twitch, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm from Blistered Thumbs, and I'm like, oh okay, that's cool. I'm like, oh, you guys probably know Fraser and the video game Awesome Guys. Like, oh yeah, they're awesome. Like, yeah, they're probably like our top, contributor. Like, oh man, those guys are awesome. So we definitely have unique content as far as just varying review opinions, the podcast, different video contributors. So.
Talented video contributors.
Absolutely.
That do shows on, obscure Japanese titles.
Exactly. Who could do those videos? Somebody pretty handsome and awesome, probably.
Absolutely. They'd have to be pretty charming as well, I imagine.
You'd have to be.
Yeah.
I'm so embarrassed of this show.
You're just now embarrassed of the show? Not however many episodes ago?
I think it's been a long time coming. His embarrassment. It's been like watching a tidal wave slowly approach the beach and just being frozen in horror. Being like, there's nothing that you can do. And fairly soon, I think that tidal wave is going to strike Austin and wash away everything save his embarrassment. He's going to be embarrassed all the time. Speaking of embarrassment, how do you guys feel about Microsoft? This is side Microsoft news. This isn't actually Microsoft Xbox One news. This is Microsoft sort of subtly attempting to alter some of their business interests in another part of the industry. Now, a couple of weeks ago, you may have noticed that Microsoft announced that the Games for Windows Live Marketplace was going to go. Because Xbox One is going to do away with Microsoft points. It's going to become purely a credit card transaction-based thing. You may or may not know that, but the Marketplace had gone that way actually some time ago. But it seems as though they aren't getting that much money out of it because they declared that it is going to close down later this month. Now, people were worried, of course, that this meant the death knell of Games for Windows Live, period. There are all these games that you play where you start them up and you have to connect to the Games for Windows Live server and log into, your Games for Windows Live account. It's basically a mirror of Xbox Live on your PC, which a lot of people rightly accuse of being ridiculous because when you buy your game off of Steam and there's, Steamworks is right there, but then it's you have to log into Games for Windows Live and then blah, 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 blah. Developers have been jumping ship on Games for Windows Live for a couple of years now. Like Relic has completely left it in the dust. For a while, they used it on their Dawn of War games. No more. Capcom has come out and said that they are not going to use Games for Windows Live in any of their releases anymore. It was part of the Street Fighter series. They used it in Dead Rising 2. I'm fairly certain there's probably other Capcom games in there that also used it, but they've ditched it. And very recently, as recently as today, as a matter of fact, a support update appeared on Xbox.com, which is where all the Games for Windows Live news appears, and has since been deleted that Games for Windows Live was due to shut down in August of 2014. Now, as I mentioned, July in 2014. Now, as I've mentioned, this support update on Xbox.com is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. So this is all speculation. It's up in the air right now. But this could very well be the first example we have of an online digital rights management software company going under. And we're not really sure what that means. It could mean very easily that suddenly all your games that use Games for Windows Live just won't work anymore. So that's games that include like I mentioned, Dead Rising 2, Dark Souls, Batman, Arkham City, Arkham Asylum as well. You know, like Grand Theft Auto 5. These are all games that use the Games for Windows Live architecture to work properly. You know, I'm kind of curious as to whether or not Microsoft is going to take responsibility for removing this, or if they're going to leave the responsibility for games to be patched up to the companies that make the games in the first place. Because who's gonna fucking bother? You know, like, is Rockstar going to give a shit that you can't play Grand Theft Auto 4 anymore?
I hope so. So let me ask you this: so if Games for Windows Live goes away, your Steam version or whatever is useless, essentially?
It may become completely unfunctional. Yeah. There's
Wow.
At this point in time, we don't know. This is the thing. This may be as far as I can recall, I think this is the first time that anything like this has ever happened. And I because, you know, like, no alarmism here. It hasn't happened yet or anything like that. But if Microsoft has this in the pipelines, it means that as PC gamers, we may not be able to play Arkham City in a year. Unless, like, Rocksteady Games does something, or if Microsoft actively does something, you know, like, and there's been people have been curious for years about, like, whether or not it's cool to buy games on Steam, because they're like, what happens when Steam disappears? This could be an interesting preview. If Steam ever disappears, what's going to happen? And that's chilling. I am chilled.
I mean, ideally, they'd be able to patch something in such a way as that you could bypass the Games for Windows Live functionality and it would just cease to exist in the client, right?
You would hope so.
I mean, yeah, worst case scenario, a bunch of games become non-operational, but it might be, I'm trying to remember, someone on Twitter said, like, the best thing to ever happen to always online gaming was SimCity, because it provided, like, the perfect test case for people to point to about why certain practices are detrimental to the customer.
Except that SimCity happened after Diablo 3, and
Well,
the exact same fucking thing happened.
Well, we doubled up on those ones, but I'm saying if Game for Windows Live if the plug gets pulled and every Games for Windows Live title goes dark and can never be played again, then you bet we're going to see some, first of all, lawsuits, because people paid money for things that they can't use. So that's class action lawsuit right away.
Yeah.
Second of all, people are going to be more hesitant to trust things like that, like Uplay and Origin and Steam, and maybe we'll see the shift to digital slow down, because I don't know if people are watching the quarterly reports, but digital is rapidly becoming more popular while physical goods are becoming less so.
Well, speaking of Origin, did you hear the news about Origin today?
Yes.
Today, the news broke
like
literally
hours ago.
Yeah.
And it's potentially demonstrative of something that might happen as a reaction to, you know, the explosion of Games for Windows Live. I mean, perhaps you're right, Austin. We might see a slowdown in the digital market. Alternately, we might see companies doing their best to assure customers and secure that their digital growth doesn't slow down. Of course, what Taylor is talking about is that Origin has launched today a new policy that they're referring to as the Great Game Guarantee. Now, the Great Game Guarantee, which sounds a lot more like a whimsical PG sort of Goonies-esque heist movie than I think it really should, essentially is Electronic Arts promising their digital distribution customers that you can return a full game purchase for a full refund under a couple of very specific conditions. Those conditions are within 24 hours after you first launch the game, within 7 days after you bought it, or within the first 7 days after the release date if you pre-order it. And that is, it's not like any of the above, it's whatever comes first. So, like if you buy a game, if you pre-order a game, you've got 7 days to return it, but if on day 3 after it launches you start it up, then you have 24 hours. So, now, this is really a first universal policy brought about by a company, and I would probably say that I imagine that a large amount of this was brought about by SimCity. So the question that I guess I have is do you think that if Games for Windows Live goes belly up, that we're going to see more things like this? We're going to see more provinces. We're going to see more assurances. We're going to see... Because, I mean, they want people, obviously, to keep using the service because you get way more money out of digital distribution than you do out of the stores.
Yep, manufacturing and retailer, but Origin's always had to compete with Steam. If Origin has this as their thing, right? This is their selling point. That could be a big deal.
Yep. Now, I do want to be completely fair here because people have a tendency to what's the word I'm looking for? Embellish, I guess, Steam's refund policy. Insofar as that people basically say, oh, have you ever tried to get a refund from Steam? They don't do it. This is not true.
Yeah, I've got a refund from Steam before. You just got to send them a message that makes sense and is true.
Yeah, pretty much. You can't dive into a game, decide that you don't like it, and then say you want your money back because you decided to buy a crappy game. That's not how it works. I know for a fact that they were facilitating refunds when From Dust first came out.
The DRM snafu.
Yeah, there was that. There was also the matter when I guess what is now known as Contagion Survivor Stories, but used to be called War Z. When that first came out, there were some there were refunds that were given out. It's not an uncommon practice in so far as a certain set of conditions is met. But yeah, this is the first time that a company has ever basically just said, yeah, if you don't like it, we'll take it back. That having been said, do you think this is a smart idea?
Origin needs a gimmick. They need a thing that they can latch onto. This isn't a bad idea. I think perhaps in the end it might not be that advantageous if everyone else jumps on, though. Like, if this might be the way the industry is just going. If Steam, Origin, Good Old Games, Uplay, if everyone has that feature, then they don't stand out, though.
In rebuttal, Austin, I ask you this question.
Okay.
Is it not only an effective policy if you are buying games on Origin?
I mean, we joke about Origin not being successful or anything, but EA has seen significant growth in digital sales.
Insofar as they used to have zero growth in digital sales.
No, but I mean, releasing Battlefield and Mass Effect 3 exclusively through Origin on PC was a big deal. They kept a lot of cash that otherwise they would have had to share.
True.
I don't know. I don't like Origin, but to say it's an abject failure is to be incorrect.
It's to dismiss. Yes, yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
But
it's not an abject failure.
But it's not Steam, and they would like to be Steam. Everyone would. Why wouldn't you?
There's a lot more functionality in Steam that Origin is yet to catch up with, but...
Yeah. I think this might be an interesting first step. Offering digital refunds on a more official scale, a full 24 hours, instead of having to go through... Basically, Steam was like, if you pre-ordered and you want to cancel, send us a message. Like, it's much more strict. This could catch on, and it might head off some of this. We've talked before about, like, you know, in the EU, there's, like, lawsuits, I think Germany and stuff, about how they're mad that Steam doesn't offer this. So, but if it doesn't catch on and Origin's the only one with it, then that might be their thing. It's basically like a full game demo at that point.
Yeah, that having been said, the amount of people who, in the comments to the announcement, are basically saying, awesome, that means I can finish it in 24 hours, and then send it back, is, I don't know, that bothers me.
Well, that's the problem we have in the secondhand market, is where a lot of games have 6-hour campaigns, and they have just no replayability. So all you can really do is pad them out or do all kinds of microtransactions or all kinds of things. That's a kind of a self-defeating feedback loop there.
Yeah, true. So I guess what we're going to see then is way more Electronic Arts games with super padded out campaigns. Quick, you have to stop the bomb from going off. Just run down this 3-mile long corridor. Almost there.
Well, I'm thinking of like the big EA tent poles right now. You got Battlefield, that's very multiplayer focused. Mass
Need for
Effect.
Speed.
Yeah, there's a whole new, what's that even called?
I don't know.
The online component of Need for Speed has like a fancy name.
Need for Speed, put your foot on it.
And they added multiplayer to Mass Effect. I think they were trying to turn Command & Conquer into an always online multiplayer thing.
Well, the new Command & Conquer, the new Command & Conquer Generals doesn't even have a single-player campaign.
No, they did add it after Backlash.
Yeah, well.
But it wasn't supposed to. But yeah, I mean, that speaks to a certain new edict from above about how things are going to go. So I'm trying to think of any things that are just kind of like, Crysis has multiplayer, but it also has a short cinematic campaign.
Yes, but you're forgetting that Servat Yurli has decided that the future of all games in the future of the future is free-to-play future games.
So Homefront 2 is going to be free-to-play then?
I'm not sure Homefront 2 is going to be free-to-play.
I'm not sure Homefront 2 is going to exist.
Yeah, that's a distinct possibility that we should be prepared for as well.
I think they only bought that IP to write it off on their taxes.
Really?
But yeah, dangerous times for digital distribution. But, whatever. Fuck that shit.
It's like we could discuss market forces and complex economic strategies, but fuck that.
I just want to know whether or not I'm going to be able to play fucking Arkham City in a year.
That would be nice. I'm sure that one way or another, whether lawsuit or just natural fan reaction or smart business moves, they will somehow make it playable.
Or, and I hate to bring this up, fellas. I don't hate to bring this up, but I mean, you're going to sell me a game and it doesn't work anymore? Fine. I'm going to go to an illicit site and crack it. Because that's a thing. You can do it.
Hey, you've already paid your money.
It's true. And I mean, the whole point too is that it's like the way that these companies react. It's funny how they back themselves into this situation where it's like, oh, we're not selling you a physical good, we're selling you a license, and it's like, oh, okay, so that license should exist in perpetuity, even if your software becomes non-functional. And it's like, and it's like, so I should really be able to access that license under any means necessary. Is that correct? But it should be a legally purchased license in the first place.
Make it available and I will pay you money for it, everyone. If not, I can't be responsible for my actions. Nintendo, Mother 3. Jerks.
I mean, hey, what? What were we just talking about? I don't remember.
I don't either. Hey, I don't think this was a thing that we were scheduled to talk about, but I think it's a really big deal in the upcoming console war, and I want to talk about it.
Oh, the Sony TV thing.
Yeah, the Sony deal with Viacom, where they're basically going to have a deal where they can stream Viacom TV channels on PlayStation exclusively.
Here's my question, Taylor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you actually have the answers. I'm just addressing you as a theoretical person.
Okay.
If I buy a Sony PlayStation 4, can I for free watch Mad Men, The Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, football, hockey, basically the Colbert Report? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm interested in. I don't give a shit of how many channels it has. If it has like 1,000 channels, I just want like a very select couple of things. That's all I care about.
Now, is AMC owned by Viacom? I don't know that.
The entire broadcasting industry is a goddamn clusterfuck. I don't know who owns who anymore.
Well, I can guarantee you it won't be free. You said, will it be free? I sincerely doubt it'll be free. It'll probably be some sort of reasonable fee in the neighborhood of like $8 to $12 or something like that. Will
it be included in my PlayStation Plus subscription?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe.
I'm looking it up. Viacom owns MTV, Nickelodeon, Paramount, BET, CMT, Comedy Central. So that's Daily Show and Colbert.
Okay, there you go.
Game Trailers, Neopets, Spike. Some of those weren't
Great.
TV.
Now you can watch the Video Game Awards.
Exclusively on your PS4.
Yeah. That's pretty much all the big stuff, it looks like. So Comedy Central is the thing that stuck out to me.
So you can watch Comedy Central and Star Trek.
Pretty much. And Transformers. Don't forget Transformers.
Paramount owns Star Trek.
Oh, man. It just TV and movie rights, all of that is so complicated and stupid. Netflix is taking shit off and on like every week.
Still, you'd rather have Netflix than not have it, right?
I do.
Don't complain.
I just wish everything existed in one place. I will pay you money, companies, to just put all of your movies and TV on one service. Just all of it.
It would be nice. Would be nice. So, what's everybody playing? Taylor, you're the guest this week. Tell me what you have been playing, and if you're secretly ashamed of it.
There is one game that I've been playing that I am secretly ashamed of, but I'll save that for later.
Is it Bolton Town?
No, not quite that shameful.
Is it?
It's more like if you're a hardcore gamer, you shouldn't be playing this game.
Oh, it's Bonecraft.
Close again, but not quite.
Is it Senran Kagura?
No, although that's getting localized for the 3DS.
I saw.
No, so the main game I've been playing is Tales of Exilia. I'm trying to get. I've been playing a lot of that.
I'm sorry, is that how we're pronouncing it? Exilia?
That's how they pronounce it in the game. So
really,
yeah.
We had Robert on a couple of weeks ago, and he said Shilia, and I said no, it's Zilia. And now we're both wrong.
Well, if you go to the wiki page and if you go to like the phonetic sound of the Japanese pronunciation, it's like Egujilia or something like that, and that's how they say it in the game. They say Exilia, not Zilia. Although I've always been saying Zilia until I played the game. So,
here's the thing. I don't want to cut you off too quick, Taylor, but when it comes to the Tales games, have you noticed they all have like a serious case of what I like to call l'Cie syndrome?
What do you mean? Like there's words that like aren't explained?
Not that they're just not explained. I mean, they try to explain them some, but they just throw a bunch of jargon at you. I always think back to Final Fantasy 13 and their l'Cie and fal'Cie and cocoon and pulse. That shit sounds dumb and bad. And Tales does that a lot, where it's like the Bodhi Blastia. It's like, don't say that. Don't ever say that again.
Yeah, well, with this one, like at the very beginning, Neela's looking for the Spyrix or whatever. I'm like, what the hell is a Spyrix?
I understand if you're doing like a fantasy or sci-fi setting, you want to give it some flavor, but there are ways to do it. I think Tolkien was really good at that. I mean, he was a linguist. He knew how certain sounds hit the ear, and he could do that was his craft really, was language. And I think BioWare is really good at that. Like, just Garrus Valkyrian, like that just rolls off the tongue. And then you got all the species names, the Solarian and the Volus, all that. Just the way those sound to the English like ear are just good. Does anybody else feel that way? Like it's hard to do that right, but when you get it right, you kind of feel it.
I'm with you. In the Dragon Age series too, actually, I feel that BioWare did a pretty good job of that.
But yeah, I totally feel you on that. They throw some weird words out there, and even all the names are really weird. Like Tales of Exilia, Tales of Vesperia. Like, what are these words that they're making up?
Have you seen the words they
yes.
trademarked for the next? Oh Jesus!
It's like the Cestia and like Castrophia and like what? Come on, guys!
I want Tales of Zest.
Tales of Zest.
This is zesty lemon flavor.
Oh God!
All right, tell me how Shilia is.
It's I gotta be honest. I kind of had high hopes. Maybe it was because Ni no Kuni was so fucking good that like oh man, this is like the gold standard now. Like it's got to be as good as Ni no Kuni, and I feel like this wasn't even really as good as the last game that came out, Tales of Graces F, which was technically just an up-resed port of a Wii game.
Wow, it didn't even hit the Graces bar.
Graphically, it looks exactly like Graces. Like, I mean, there's some towns that have more detail in them and stuff, but like Vesperia looks better to me, in my opinion. but it's fun. Like, it's just as fun as any Tales game. The combat system's great. There's no like traditional JRPG world map. It kind of takes notes from Final Fantasy 12, where it's like these interconnected zones from town to town instead of like a world map. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I like that. It like gives like the world makes it feel like it's a lot larger and more rich. So I did enjoy that. They changed a lot of things. Like, they changed the leveling up to kind of something similar to Final Fantasy X Sphere Grid, where you can like customize how you level up, sort of.
Is it like actually like, oh, you know, every character's kind of a blank slate, build them how you want, or it's like, this is the magic guy, put all the points in magic or you'll fuck him up? I
mean, if you so the game can automatically level it up for you if you want, and typically it goes one way or another. Like, there are certain characters that are like meant to be healers and meant to be like casters, but if you want to, you can just make everybody a brawler if you really want to do that.
I mean, that's what Final Fantasy X was supposed to do also. It was like, oh, here's the sphere grid, make anybody everything. But it was like, Lulu has to be black mage or she's useless, you know? Like, Auron has to be just straight damage or he's useless. Like, it really wasn't freedom. It was kind of the illusion. That's the way I felt, at least. So I'm always kind of hesitant of the sphere grid or the Crystarium approach to leveling.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid. Like, after a while, I got really bored of it, and I just started having the game do it automatically for me, because I was like, this is taking too long. I don't want to micromanage another thing. So I've been playing that. So I'm trying to prepare myself for Layton, the next Layton game next year at the Azran Legacy. So I just got Professor Layton and The Last Spectre.
And awesome, I believe this is your territory.
Oh, wait, have you beaten all of them up to the Spectre?
No, but from what you told me, Spectre is the first in the new trilogy. It's Spectre, Miracle Mask, and then Azran Legacy is like a trilogy, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm ever going to go back to the other ones, because I played Unwound Future, which was the last game in that trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So now explain this to me. Like, they're two different trilogies, but it's almost like they're rebooting the world, sort of, because like in the new game, Professor Layton doesn't know Luke yet. Like, you meet him in the game, and it's like, oh, I don't know who you are. So like, how does that, like, explain that to me? I guess, like, what's that all about?
Yeah, for a puzzle game, it does have a kind of a confusing thing going on. Yeah, they're not in chronological order, but playing them in the order they were made makes the most sense, because it's like you don't realize that you don't have certain backstory until later, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
It's like when the first game, it's just like Luke and the Professor just know each other. Just like, that's just a thing, just deal with it. And then later, they meet. But I don't think you'd lose anything by not seeing that in the chronological order.
Okay, I thought it was taking like a Zelda approach, like it's two different timelines or something like that. But this is... So if you were to do it in chronological order, it's like the last three games are the first three in chronological order, if that makes sense.
My brain just fucking ate itself.
The first game chronologically is Spectre, I guess is what I'm getting at.
You guys are hurting me.
I don't think it matters that much, honestly.
Okay, I guess I was just trying to make sense of it, because if that was the fourth game and he doesn't know Luke, and in the last game they were like best friends, I just was trying to figure out like what happened there.
I would just say play them in the order they were made.
Oh, well, too late now. I'm already confused.
I know.
So, yeah, I'm playing through that. Some of the puzzles are really stupid. Like, they don't make sense. Like, there's this one puzzle where you're looking at these cat dolls, and it's like, two of these cat dolls are identical. Which one are they? And I'm, like, sitting there, and I'm like, they don't look identical. And then when it gives you the solution, it's like, oh, well, if you were able to turn the cats upside down, they have, like, a second side. It's like, how would you be able to see them? You can't like rotate the characters. They're just like an image that you're just supposed to assume, if that makes any sense.
I don't remember that puzzle specifically, but they fuck with you every once in a while.
Well, it's not even like you can figure it out. It's just like, haha, here's a stupid puzzle that you couldn't figure out. Like, the solution was retarded. I was like, this is dumb. It wasn't even like challenging. It was just not explained well. Like, some of the setup, like they give you these weird scenarios in order to like help you with the puzzle, and like the explanations are, I don't think, very clear a lot of the time, but it's still fun overall. I think, like you said, the Unwound Future is where story and gameplay was like at the peak together, and then it starts like going other ways. Like, oh, the story gets better, but the puzzles don't get better. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, for listeners who weren't privy to that conversation on an earlier episode, the Professor Layton series, it pretty much always gets better in the puzzles. Like, they get clearer and, more logical, the translation's better and everything. But the stories go to some really weird places, and they get crazier and crazier, and I guess it's really about your personal suspension of disbelief when shit starts getting real near the end of every game. Because it starts off pretty, like, low key, it's like, oh, the twist, here's what happened. But by like the fourth or fifth game, like, it's fucking bonkers.
Yeah. So like, the end of Unwound Future was just ridiculous.
I loved it, but it was so dumb. It was so dumb. How old is that game? Can we spoil that?
Let's look it up. Okay.
We might wait to the end to spoil that.
Unwound Future. Okay,
in Japan in 2008.
But it came out in 2010 in North America.
3 years. Well, maybe if we have some time at the end, we'll talk about it, but
okay.
We'll leave that. What else? Did you play anything else?
Okay, so I played Layton, played Exilia. I was playing a little bit more Etrian Odyssey here and there. That game's so damn long.
It's a grind on purpose.
I love it. I totally love it. I love grinding and just leveling up, going back, doing it again. It's fun. What else? Oh, I played DuckTales. I beat DuckTales. I remember you and the
remastered.
Me. Yes, DuckTales remastered. I was getting
just checking.
Got plenty of shit on that as usual, because apparently I'm a baby when it comes to playing games.
I think we've established, Taylor, that you are not good at video games.
Oh, that's not true, because when you guys were giving me grief about Donkey Kong, what I was trying to do with Donkey Kong was get every single collectible, and trying to get every collectible is hard. Like, just doing the levels is easy. Like, I can breeze through that in a few hours. But, like, if you try to do all the challenge rooms and get all the banana coins or whatever it is you collect in that game, it gets pretty challenging. And I think DuckTales is unfairly challenging. It's like, oh, okay, we'll literally keep the same archaic no continue design. I think that's what was frustrating people, because it's like you have 2 continues, and if you die at the boss, you have to do the whole level over again. And that was just frustrating to people.
Yeah, that if anyone wasn't paying attention kind of the wider gaming community, DuckTales Remastered was met with a lot of criticism, and old school kind of gamers were, I want to say, unkind to reviewers who they thought didn't get it. They didn't understand old school sensibilities, and that we were too coddled these days, and DuckTales is like some kind of work of genius. So that was a thing. It got anywhere from like 4 or 5s to like 8s. I think Sean liked it a lot, but
Yeah, I could understand the mixed reviews. The cutscenes definitely really get in the way of the gameplay. Like, you're sitting there doing some pogoing and having a good old time, and then Scrooge McDuck has to talk about how there's a bird on this coin. It's like, just shut up. I want to kill some more spiders. And
they got all the voice actors back, though, which
they
is pretty
did.
cool.
That was, it was like I was playing an episode of the cartoon. It was neat. But sometimes they were a little too intrusive. Like, at the very beginning of the level and at the very end of a level, perfect. Do all the voice acting you want, but when you start doing it, like, in the middle of a stage when I'm, like, in a groove, like, it gets really annoying. But thankfully, you can just skip them, so it's not a big deal. So that was fun, enjoyable. I guess it's not for everybody, though, that's for sure.
Tell me one thing, Taylor. I still haven't heard it. I've been afraid to go on YouTube and look it up. The Moon music.
Mm-hmm.
It's in there, right?
Of course, yeah. Excellent.
They do it justice?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I might buy this game now, then.
It's on Steam. You can get it on Steam.
I know that. I know.
Okay.
Sorry, I just
had to know.
Haven't done it yet. Because I had to know.
Well, now you know. And no one's half the battle. So here's my shameful games. The first one not as shameful, but I've been playing a lot of Plants vs. Zombies 2 on the iPad. It's a fun game. maybe a little bit frowned upon since it's a mobile game or whatever, but
And it's free to play.
and it's free to play. I didn't know if I liked that. Like some of the plants that I was used to having, like the freeze one and stuff, you had to buy. I don't know, but still, I could get by the levels without using them. It wasn't a big deal.
Here's the important thing, Taylor. How's the music?
Oh, I don't know. I never turned the music on, actually, now that I think about it. I was just listening to, like, whatever I had on my iPhone.
You,
So I don't
you disgust me.
Here's the one that will really disgust you. I've been playing, as well as Plants vs. Zombies, a little game called Candy Crush Saga. Are you familiar with this?
Taylor, have we lost you to tech casuals?
I think you have lost me to casual.
I was really afraid for a second there he was going to say he was playing Ultima Forever.
Oh, that's not even casual. That's just sad.
I know. Like that when he was like, here's the one you're really going to be ashamed of, I was like, oh God, don't say it.
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
Don't.
You're better off not knowing.
Oh, right.
we should review that. We should get a review of Ultima Forever up there just to say you did it.
Just to say you did it.
I'll look into that. Candy Crush, Taylor. Everyone's playing it. Every soccer mom and teenage girl's playing it. How is it?
It's true. I mean, it's simple. It's like something to play while you're sitting on the toilet, pretty much.
It's Bejeweled.
It literally, that's all it is. It's Bejeweled with a candy theme.
It's Bejeweled. Moving on.
Yep, that's all there is to it.
I don't understand people who give like casual gamers grief. Like, who cares? You played some Bejeweled. Good for you.
Oh, by the way, on the last podcast, or maybe this was a couple episodes ago, you guys were inquiring what exactly my position was and what my company did as far as games go.
Oh, you heard that? Yeah. Taylor's in the industry.
Yeah, I'm all important or something. So the company is called Phoenix Age Games, and we have they're games that I would never play. Anybody listening to this show would probably never play. They're casual, like fantasy strategy games. So, like you collect heroes, and then you like do quote unquote quests. And like doing a quest is literally tapping the button that says quest, and that's you doing the quest. But you like collect like materials and stuff, and you build armies, and you can fight other people and stuff.
Okay, I just googled Phoenix Age games. Is this Underworld, Empire, and Castle Age?
Yep, those are the two. So Underworld's like a crime-themed game, and then Castle Age is the fantasy-themed one.
Okay, now I know where Taylor works.
Now you know. And not too long ago, we were top 10 grossing on the App Store, which is pretty cool. So.
Oh, shit.
Okay, all posted spoiled yogurts containers go to...
You just start mailing shit to Taylor's.
Care of Taylor Hoyt. Taylor, this smells like spoiled dairy products. Sorry, boss. It's for my yogurt collection.
Yeah, actually, our company's really small. There's only like 30 employees or something, and it's like one giant room. It's really laid back. It's a cool work environment.
Well, I mean, you work in California. There's a lot of game developers, publishers.
I know of at least two.
There's like outlets. Like I mean, a bunch of people have their offices there. Are you near anyone? I think I remember you saying something like that before.
You're near Double Fine, aren't you?
Probably. I mean, we're in the financial district of San Francisco, like maybe a 20-minute walk from the baseball stadium. So take that for what it's worth, I guess. I don't know where everybody else. I don't know where the other offices are.
They're in the game developers district.
We should just have our own district. That'd be awesome.
I'm just picturing Taylor like running down the hallway, just like kicking an Xseed's door and just shooting Selly String in there and running off.
I wish. So on our floor, it's like the Royal Bank of Scotland or something weird. Like, I don't really understand what they do there. Do bank things. It's weird because it's like an office building, but then it's like a bank in an office building. Doesn't seem like it would make sense, but...
What's the matter? You don't think a bank can have an office?
No. They have to be in one of those fancy places.
That's where the insider trading happens, guys. Come on. Okay, I just looked it up. Sega of America's headquarters is in San Francisco. Can you go there and take someone hostage and get Yakuza 5 localized?
I'll try my best.
It's at 350 Rhode Island Street, Suite 400, San Francisco, California, 94103.
So, okay, question. Is Yakuza 5 out in Japan?
Oh, yeah. It got a perfect score from Famitsu.
What? How much did you think Sega paid them for that score?
Just, like, casually ballparking the bribe.
Well, no. Famitsu is, like, infamous for taking bribes, though. They're, like, the one industry outlet that actually does that.
I've never heard that. All I know is that...
I think that's pretty well known. I'd like to think it is.
It's possible. I have not heard that.
But it's like you're a Japanese mobster guy, right? And apparently there's like some sort of dating sim aspect, I think, or maybe a hooker sim aspect. I don't know.
Maybe both.
Maybe both.
Why should we be exclusive? Yakuza 5, both dating and hooker sim.
I actually talked about this when I played Yakuza 4 on the podcast. It's called a hostess thing. It's a real thing in Japan. It's like emotional prostitution. You pay them to spend time with you and pretend like they care.
Yeah, Taylor, it's only a little bit more embarrassing.
Wait, I've actually been to a place like that. I'm not even kidding. So here, I'm gonna describe to you what this is. So you go into the place, right, and you sit down, and it's like a bar, and there's like all these girls everywhere. They're not like scantily clad. They're just regular girls that are dressed nice. And you sit down, and they're like, "Oh, what do you want to drink?" or something, and like you buy like a beer or like a small bottle of soju or something, and they just like sit there and drink it with you, and like hang out.
Yeah, basically that in the Yakuza series you can do that. Also in 4, the one I played, you run one of those places, so you can like handle that. Basically, you like play dress up with the girls and like give them tips and stuff. It's culture shock as far as I'm concerned, but I guess someone enjoyed it.
Well, you know what's weird? I feel like a lot more weird shit is getting localized, and I don't know if these are just one-off random examples, or it's people are like, okay, let's start taking risks again. Like, I keep saying that's like a miracle that we got Project Cross Zone. Like, that game has no right being localized at all. And then we're getting Hatsune Miku, which was probably not expensive at all to localize. Just change a few menus to English and you're good, I would assume.
I mean, I don't think they're going to change the music, so it's all good.
Exactly.
I think the rise of digital has a lot to do with that, because printing physical copies would cost a lot for some of these titles, but if they can reasonably expect to get, 15,000 downloads, then shit, they just covered localization costs. Why not?
Exactly. Yeah, well, I know there's the disc version of Hatsune Miku, which I was a little surprised at. I was like, wow, they're going like all out, like $50 price tag, like physical disc. Like they think this has some kind of potential.
I said this before. I think I did a Thumb Wars with Sean on this. It's a risk, but if it catches on, then Sega will have brought Vocaloid to North America, and then they will reign over all of us with an iron fist with that cash. Like that is either a gold mine or a death trap. There is no middle ground with Vocaloid.
Well, the other Japanese sensation that I think would be interesting to see what would happen if it got localized would be the Idolmaster series. Are you familiar with that?
I'm vaguely familiar with that. It's basically like Hatsune Miku, but with more like creepiness.
No, it's almost like an RPG. Like you basically run like a talent agency, and you like basically manage like pop idols. And you decide, like, they're going to do this showing today, and they're going to do this. But I think the gameplay is, kind of music rhythm-y. I don't know.
Yeah, that's basically what I was saying. It's like the as Football Manager is to FIFA.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm all for the Project Cross Zone approach, which is to keep the original Japanese voice track and then just have a strong text localization, and hopefully the niche will pick up the tab.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. As long as I can read the menus, I don't really care if there's voiceovers or not. Although it would be nice, Like, the big budget ones, like, Final Fantasy, Ni no Kuni, give us some voices, but for stuff that might not have a chance, then just don't bother.
As long as the original Japanese is like, well acted, I don't even care about Final Fantasy. I prefer...
Would you be able to tell if the Japanese was well acted, Austin?
Yeah, that's the thing. I can never tell. I'm just like, oh, that sounds good, I think.
Well, you can't pick up on the nuances, but I think you can tell if someone is bringing across the proper like tone and emotion, and it depends on, like, a lot of Japanese games don't have like full animation. For something like Yakuza 4, where it's all mocapped and it's all like real acting, I think you can definitely tell if someone's is nailing their part. If it's something like a visual novel where it's all static art, then no, I don't think it really matters.
I hear you.
Video game acting is so in its infancy.
No kidding. I mean, it started in, what, PS2, early PS1 days? And even then it was garbage back then.
No,
Still,
even before
don't
that.
open that door.
FMV.
Yeah, even before then we had FMV games.
That's true. That doesn't really count, though, because those were, like, literally being filmed.
I think The Last of Us is, like, the first game I would say actually had, like, good acting. Like, literal, like, people who should be paid to act.
No, I agree. Like, oh, God, Last of Us is so fucking good. Like, I can't even tell you, like, the fact that it's even, like, competing with Ni no Kuni at all for my game of the year is, like, a feat in and of itself, because Ni no Kuni is, like, probably my game of the generation. Surprise, right?
Not really. I know you, Taylor.
Yeah, it's pretty predictable, Taylor.
I think if they would have slapped a pair of tits on Drippy, you would have tried to figure out some way to legally marry it. Don't make me Photoshop that.
You're gonna have to.
I think you just volunteered.
Oh no.
Drippy's Droopy Tits, I think, is going to be the name of this episode.
I don't know. Am I allowed to say tits in the title?
Yep. You just call it Drippy's Droopies.
Okay, we'll see. Oh, jeez. Is that everything you played?
Yeah, we're way off topic now. Yeah, Zillia, a couple iPhone games, Professor Layton. Yeah, that'll be it for now, or else this will go on forever.
It's probably going to go on forever anyway.
Yep.
Did you play video games?
I did play video games, both this week and last.
You can talk about them if you want. You don't have to.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I'm being invited to talk. Well, this week, and last, I guess, I managed to finish Remember Me, and only at its end did it become so glaringly apparent how squandered. Squandered is maybe a little bit dramatic. Wasteful, maybe, perhaps. How wasteful the effort was. I mean, there were so many interesting setups and so much interesting history and ideas and concept, and it all just came in under the wire. Like all of it. I mean, it had potential to be a game that excelled in one very particular area and may have fallen under in some others. But it managed to, like, just fall shy in just about every single category. Wow. You know? Like, it didn't have particularly strong characters. It had a compelling setup, like a compelling setting and environment and world that it had created, but underutilized it. And just, like, stuck to the same, like, first 2 or 3 levels that you play through over and over again, you know? Its combat system, interesting, you know, like, it started out with some innovation, but then it's, like, halfway through the game, if you have any idea what you're doing, you unlock all the combos, and it's suddenly like, well, all right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was perfectly serviceable. I mean, I found the movement and the controls to be a little janky at times, but it's like I almost feel more offended by that, though. Not the jankiness of the control or anything like that, but the fact that it was actually a serviceable game that had so much potential.
Yeah, if it was just an outright failure, then you could just dismiss it and be like, well, that was a waste of time.
Yeah.
But the fact that it was actually like, oh man, that could have been cool, and it's like, motherfuckers, you ruined it.
Yeah, and that's, like, there's almost something worse about that, where it's like, and I got into a really interesting conversation with my brother the other day about the concept of game developers not necessarily knowing what it is, like, that they have at their fingertips. not necessarily just game developers, but like, the idea of movie remakes came up and things like that. He was my brother was talking very specifically about Spelunky, and the Spelunky remake that very recently launched on PC, and why he actually prefers the original free-to-play, like, web version of Spelunky that you can play. Why he was actually like, yeah, it's a better game. And it was like, given a little bit of budget and time, the guy responsible for it might have lost his way, wasn't really sure what he was doing, made some changes. Nah, what he came out with was different, but it almost seemed as though when they were making Remember Me, they weren't really sure what the value, like where they should have put their money.
I've heard it said, and I think I agree, that it might have been a better game all around if it would have just been a series of the memory remix puzzles.
Yep.
Basically like Ghost Trick. The thing every time I hear someone talk about Remember Me, and it's especially funny with the juxtaposition with Taylor talking about The Last of Us, is that some people gave Remember Me a lot of credit for its ideas that it didn't deliver on, and some other people didn't. It's a really kind of hit or miss thing. Like, for example, Polygon gave Remember Me an 8, and The Last of Us a 7.5 for the reviews. And that's those people's opinions. That's fine. But other people gave Remember Me like a 4 for failing to deliver on any of those things. It's really like how much you personally like give credit for setup. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the follow through. I don't think anyone would argue is there, but how much are you willing to invest in an IP that could be better? I guess is really the thing with Remember Me.
Yeah.
Because I want a sequel.
Me too. I would love to see like more development, less predictable plots, because the plot was so predictable. I'm not going to go into spoilers. It's not even. This is the thing, is that I feel like it's not even worth going into spoilers, because I feel like anybody who's playing through the game can pretty much be like, yeah, this is going to happen.
I mean, this is actually a thing. Like, I don't think anyone listening was aware of it, but if you're kind of in the game reviewer community thing, like the little circle, Capcom actually spoiled the game in the review guide, like pretty straight up, and some people were really mad about that, but I was like, I don't know, they didn't even consider it spoilers.
Yeah. And that's what it strikes me as. Like, I don't even feel necessary to talk about the plot elements, because I was just like, yeah, that's how it went down.
Well, I heard a funny thing about this game. I heard a rumor that originally it was being published by Sony, and they stopped publishing it because they felt like it was not up to par or whatever, and then Capcom kind of picked up the scraps.
I don't remember it being attached to Sony. I remember it was originally called Adrift, and they were shopping it around as kind of, basically a high-concept tech demo. And then it landed at Capcom, got tweaked a little bit into Remember Me, and it basically came out as that proof-of-concept tech demo.
So that's really all I have to say about that. I mean, in the end, for a game called Remember Me, it's oddly forgettable. Oh, how droll!
Let me do a quick Google search and see how many people have made the same exact joke.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, here it is. Everyone.
But moving on, I've managed to get quite a lot of Payday 2 in. Paid quite a lot. I played quite a lot of Payday 2, like 6 or 7 hours or so, and I'm really enjoying it. It's no secret that I was a large fan of the first Payday. It was, I felt like it was a rushed shooter. Like its development was a little rushed, but it had some really interesting ideas and definitely did not deserve the reputation that it had been given offhandedly as just being like Left 4 Dead with bank robbers.
I think that the first Payday suffered from some messaging problems. I remember I talked to the devs at E3, and they didn't really seem confident in it. They basically were like, yeah, it's Left 4 Dead with banks. And I was like, actually, Joe was there, and he was like, can you be the cops? And they're like, no, maybe we'll add that. Like, they didn't really, they had problems selling it. I feel like, from what I've seen, the sequel is much more confident
Yes, that is absolutely apparent right out of the gate, and I'm not suggesting that it doesn't have problems. It certainly does, but it definitely embraces its identity pretty clearly in the way that it manages its class systems and its unlocks and its buys and things like that. Where rather than your classic unlock system where you just you reach a certain level and it's like, congratulations, here's a thing. And you're like, great, just what I've always wanted, a flashlight. Most of your skills, actually, no, all of your skills and all of your weapons basically unlock for the ability to purchase as you gain in levels, like a reputation level, they call it, right? But the thing is that they don't unlock right away. It's not just like, congratulations, you made reputation level 9, here's an Uzi. They become unlockable for purchase. So you are accruing money and experience points, and as you get both, you can kind of customize the way that you want to play your character. And you can, from heist to heist that you choose your different loadouts, so that when you're running when you're running a smash and grab, where you just run into a store and grab as much jewelry as you possibly can, and that the cops are coming in a couple of seconds, you can load up with your highest damage assault rifles and your biggest, bulkiest, most visibly apparent armor, so that when you run in the store and everybody's like, holy shit, that guy's got a gun and he's got a flak jacket on, you're ready for the cops when they show up. But alternately, when you get that mission where it's like, hey, go to this nightclub and break into this safe, or go to this jewelry store and try and steal this thing that's in the back, you can put your slightly smaller bulletproof vest on so it fits underneath your suit jacket, and you can take your silenced pistol and your little tuck behind the back sawn-off shotgun and really try and pull these heists off as being this kind of okay, let's do this smooth and clean, nobody gets killed. So and that's one of the things about the first game that they weren't necessarily that clear on, is that there are heists in that game that you can pull where it's nobody has to know that you're there. And it took me a while to learn that in the first Payday. But in the second one, it's a little bit more apparent, where it's you do actually have a visibility setting, where it's, if you put on bulkier armor or you bring bulkier, deadlier weapons with you, it makes you much more suspicious at a glance. And if you wander into a store that you're casing, or a nightclub or whatever it is, and there's a guard there who takes a look at you, he's just like, what the fuck? This dude's in a flak jacket with an AK? Somebody call the cops. So you can customize the way that you want to run a mission on your own. It does fail a little bit in its randomization aspects, the way that it works. Rather than just choosing what mission you want to play, you go to this overland map called CrimeNet, where jobs pop up, and some of when they pop up, they usually pop up at certain difficulty levels and pay levels. So you can run the same job 10, 12 different times and never get paid the same amount of money, because you're running it on different pay levels and different difficulty levels. So a difficulty level will be how well armed the cops are when they show up, or how many of them show up, or how frequently they show up, or how difficult it is to get away with the heist without being detected. And the different paydays will be things like whether or not you want 4 bags of jewelry or 8 bags of jewelry or something like that. And the problem is that they're not always readily available. So you kind of go in and sometimes you're just looking at these jobs thinking to yourself, okay, when is one going to show up that I can do? Because oftentimes, if you have a full crew or a smaller crew, that can really affect your ability to pull a heist off properly. So you might be sitting there waiting for a job to come up that works for your very particular player setup. And then indeed at the end of each level, they have this pick a card game where they show 3 cards face down and you pick one. and when it turns over, you get sort of a bonus. The bonus will either be cash or a new mask that you can wear, or a gadget that you could affix to your weapon, like a laser sight or a red dot or a tacked flashlight or something like that. It makes it frustrating that you'll be going along and you'll be like, well, I just bought this really new pistol and I'd like to use it, but then I'm running this new mission and I guess I'm going to use these weapons. So, and at the end of this one, I got another mask material. Great. So now I can make my masks out of wicker. You know, and it's all kind of in the name of trying to make your character your own, make it customizable, but it just, I don't know. I don't feel that there are enough missions to really make the pick a random reward thing work. Although that having been said, I've heard that they've got a pretty incredible year of DLC planned. But we'll see what happens when they actually come to the table with it.
I don't know if you read Robert's review, but he liked it, but he just thought that you basically have to bring friends because the computer AI is rock stupid.
Absolutely. It is so. It's completely true. It's not a game you should play alone.
All right, that's an important caveat. Bring friends.
Yeah. Not because it makes the game fun to play with friends. The game is fun. It's just that when you have friends, the game opens up. Like it's very specifically designed.
Yeah.
When you're trying to run a heist by yourself, because the AI don't do anything. They won't bag goods. They won't pick goods up and move them to the truck. They won't cuff civilians. They won't try and tell people to get down. They don't have any special skills, so you can't get them to like set drills or pick locks or any of that shit.
To quote Robert, they're basically just meat shields.
Yeah, pretty much. And for the game to really, really work, you need a guy to be picking the lock to the next room while one guy is like hacking into the computer system and tagging other guards, and then you need another guy who's like setting the drill and shit like that. It's like it really banks off having your friends playing with you, which is both a fault and at the same time like a really, really great feature. But lastly, and this is probably, believe it or not, I think the most interesting game I played all week, was a game called Papers, Please.
Okay, tell us what this game's about. I've seen a lot of buzz on Twitter about it. I have no idea what it is, though.
Yeah.
It sounds like the most boring game in the world. But it's actually really weirdly exciting. It takes place in a fictional communist country called, like, Arstotzka, in 1982, where you, just as a citizen, are in a labor lottery as Arstotzka opens up its borders once again, and you get assigned the job of being an inspection officer at the border. And they jam you in this little border booth, and one by one, people who want to come into Arstotzka across the border come in and, like, hand you their passport, and you have to, like, inspect their papers and then either allow or deny them access to your country. And it does. It sounds like the most boring game in the world. It does. It'd be like, oh, really? That's the game? But it gets weirdly, weirdly tense.
It's something that would never work in a film or in literature, as obviously as music, any other art form. But the interactivity makes it like almost like Telltale's The Walking Dead. It's just moment after moment of tough decisions about like morally ambiguous situations.
Yeah, and at the same time, there's actually there's a survival aspect to it as well, because you have a limited amount of time every single day. And the more people you either get through or push away from the border, the more money you make at the end of the day. And then so at the end of the day, you have to do things like you have to pay for rent, you have to pay for heat, you have to pay for food, and then there's like possible There's possible upgrades you get to your like inspection booth and whatnot. So it's like it brings up these situations where you're sort of like you're earning like next to no money, and then some guy comes in and is just like, yeah, do this for me and I'll make sure you get paid. And you're like, well, I guess it couldn't hurt. And then, like, the very next day, you wake up and read the newspaper, and it's like, explosion in the subway! And you're like, oh, God, did I do that? And as every day goes on, too, like, in order to do your job properly, because if you don't do your job properly, they start, like, you know, coming after you and being like, hey, you know, you've made these many infractions, you put these many people through that shouldn't have gone through, you sent these many people away that shouldn't have gone away, you know, we're not really sure if employing you here is a mistake and you could be replaced. So you're trying to get through, like, as many people coming through the border, and then, like, day 2 they add another document where it's like, oh, okay, you know, visitors are allowed to come through, only they need this ticket. So you're looking at the ticket, and you're looking at the passport and trying to make sure that all this is okay. And then the next day it's like, okay, the ticket's not enough anymore. We need an actual certificate of, like, transit to come through that has the reason why they want to come into the country, and it's got their name and their passport, and you're, like, looking at all this data and trying to match it as the clock slowly ticks down, and you're like, fuck, if I don't get at least 15 people through today, my kids are gonna starve.
It makes you think about things that you probably don't want to confront. Like, we all kind of just assume TSA agents are like, they take pleasure in, you know, frisking us and being jerks or whatever, but it's like, that's a hard-ass job.
I always find myself being, like, and I know that this is a computer game, but I find myself being weirdly embarrassed when I look at somebody's passport, and it's, like, female, and there's a mustache on the person standing in front of me. And I have to be like, are you a man or a woman? And they're like, what kind of question is that? And I'm like, would you please step behind the screen and take your clothes off?
It makes you feel like a jerk, and it's something that is unique to video games, is that it, or at least relatively unique, is that it can implicate you in acts of questionable morality.
Oh yeah, like there was one I was playing it a little bit before I came on the podcast today. That was like a guy comes in, and it's like perfect paperwork. He's got everything he needs, you know, like, and I'm just like, hey, yeah, go on through. And he's like, okay, great, be nice to my wife. She's right behind me. And then this lady walks in, and she's got nothing. I'm like, ma'am, where's your passport? She's like, oh, I'm really sorry, it's here. I'm like, okay, but that's actually not good enough. Because you're not from here, I need a writ of passage. She's like, oh, I don't have one. I'm like, denied. And, like, that's it. You just, like, send her. She was like, no, they'll kill me if you send me back. And I'm like, I need to keep my job?
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you saw a character in a TV show do that, you'd be like, wow, man, what a dick. That lady's going to get killed if she goes back. But if it forces you to do it, then, I don't know, it just feels more powerful that way.
Yeah, there's something distinctly kind of shady about it that makes me, like, at the end of the day, I'm like, God, I'm not proud of myself, but at least my kid's eating.
Yeah. Through mechanics and gameplay, it forces you to be kind of selfish. It's interesting. I think it's a really strong statement on kind of game design, and I'm glad it exists.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really impressed with it. I kind of picked it up because I was interested in looking at it. I was like, honestly, I need to see how they make a game out of this. And then after I finished Remember Me, I just thought, well, you know, I'll just play Papers, Please for a little bit. But I've already done, like, almost 2 hours of it or something like that. And I'm just like, I'm loving it. It's so bizarrely weird. But it manages to succeed in such an unconventional way. Can I take it then, Austin, from your discussion of it, that you too have been playing Papers, Please?
I played it a little bit. I have, like, 12 games to talk about, so I want to cut it down to some things real quick and try to get through this. We talked about Papers, Please. I don't really have anything to add about anything else to add on that subject. All right, were you done, Johnny?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. In case Taylor has to go, I want to hit this real quick. Dive kick. Fuck you, Taylor. Taylor, step up to the plate. Talk some shit about dive kick.
It's so... Okay, I get the idea, right? The idea is that it was like this guy... There was apparently a very exploitive move in Street Fighter, I don't know what game it was, where it was this dive kick, and it was really hard to block, and it was just like fucking people up, and people were getting these cheap wins with it, and they'd be like... And then some guy was like, ha ha ha, wouldn't it be funny if we just made a game where all you did was dive kick? I'm like, that's a funny idea, but you don't, like, make a game and sell it for money. Like, that's a funny Flash game you make on Newgrounds or something. Like, it blows my mind that this is actually a game that's being sold for money.
You have the story of where the idea came from. I don't think you have a full grasp on the
ins and outs of dive kick.
The way in
the
which...
subtleties of dive kick.
The way in which dive kick...
The small eddies and currents of the dive kick story.
I will fuck your day up, Johnny.
Will you dive kick it?
The way in which dive kick distills the essence of fighting games. Fighting games are a very inaccessible genre. They require very fast reaction time, lots of memorization, lots of practice. They're just not friendly. Dive kick takes the essence of fighting games, which is spacing, situational awareness, what's called footsies, throwing out little attacks to try to see if you can get, some light contact to combo or something. It takes all the small things and makes a game about them. It's like the way Angry Birds is to puzzle games, or like how Pong is to a full-on table tennis. It's a distillation of a complicated concept into a core thing. I'm writing my review right now. The review goes up tomorrow at noon. I'm saying it's basically...
in dive kick, you press to jump and then you press to kick. 8 out of 10. That's the review right there.
I will murder your family, Taylor.
This is something I will not back down from. It's stupid.
Dive kick is to fighting games as a home run competition is to baseball. It's taking and focusing on one aspect to stand for the whole thing.
It's still dumb. I don't care.
If it was like a full $60, I'd be on board. It's $10. That's a fucking super value meal at McDonald's. All right, it's not that big of a hit. I'm hesitant to use.
I'm being unreasonable, Sean, right now is what I'm being, and I don't really care.
Also, here's the thing: if dive kick doesn't sound interesting, stay far away from it. I'm not.
I will. I have no intention of ever participating in it.
I'm not saying you should. If it doesn't sound like it's for you, it's not. But I'm trying to resist the urge to just yell at you. It's like straight fan service for this. Like every character is a reference to like a real fighting game community member. Every attack, every loading screen fucking comment, everything. It's like it's a big, smart love letter to something that I don't think you have any interest in.
Exactly, and that's
okay.
Why
No, see, don't add, and it's dumb.
It is so dumb.
It's not fair.
Yeah, there's just, for me personally, like I said in that tweet earlier, I said, obviously it's going to appeal to somebody, or else this game wouldn't exist. But there is literally nothing about this game that makes me say, "Yep, that's something I want to try out." Not even like remotely. The art style is ugly. Like the gameplay seems very basic, and I feel like it's one of those things where you'd get bored in like an hour.
Taylor, it is basic and simple, but does that mean it's bad? Like I said before, is Tetris bad because it's simple? It's just following blocks. You put them in order and they disappear. Like you were playing Candy Crush. Like that's simple. Like simple doesn't mean bad. It means focused. It means polished. It's one mechanic. Like I said, Angry Birds. It's one mechanic explored in as much breadth as humanly possible, and that's it.
But in this game, all you're doing is dive kicking. That's it. Jump kick, jump kick. But in Angry Birds, there's like intricate levels, like knock the way the puzzles are built, or.
Well, no, but puzzle design is a finite resource. Human reactions are not. Fighting against a human opponent can go in millions of different ways. It's really not so simple as all that. I mean, you can be reductive to any genre. I'd be like, JRPGs, you're just picking attacks from a menu. You just hit the X button, right, and you just pick things. That's whatever. That's easy, right? And you're like, no, there's, strategy and there's characters and plot and music. There's other elements, but I can just reduce it down to one thing and make it sound stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see how... It just seems like it was based on, like, a joke, and they're like, oh, let's, like, turn it into a thing, and, like, I don't know, I just don't understand it.
I think if you sat down with it and you just played with someone, I think even if you didn't, were like, oh, this is great, I think you would at least get it and be like, I could see how this could be enjoyable, because it really does have kind of this simple arcade pleasure of just something like Pong or Tetris or Angry Birds. It's just one mechanic, and you just do it, and it's just fun. It's simple, but it's fun. I've been playing a lot of it. It's really hard. Also, if you put like the difficulty up, fucking Seth Killian is a goddamn murder beast.
Well, I actually watched the live stream from E3. Like, Seth Killian hosted some tournament with like half developers, half journalists, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I saw plenty of matches. And, I don't know, just...
Well, watching it is one thing, but I think playing it is something else entirely. I think it's not something you can get anywhere else, first of all. But also, I mean,
that's
just
for sure.
comparing it to other fighting games, I mean, do you find particular joy in memorizing a combo? To me, the joy in fighting games is really about kind of the mind games of the stuff that Divekick kind of distills. It's about spacing and footsies and reaction time, situational awareness, just all those kind of things. Knowing characters, because every character, has different jump heights, different like kick speeds. Some of them have like different abilities. Like this one guy like leaves like a lightning trail behind him, so you can't jump over him because you'll hit it. Stuff like that. So you kind of got to learn the roster a little bit. I mean, I don't think, Taylor, you're not in the FGC, right?
No, here's what I'll say. Like, if my favorite game of all time got a fighting game spin-off and I still can't get into fighting games, then, like, nothing will get me into fighting games. So, Divekick is just something that I don't get. It will probably appeal to the fighting game community and people will probably like it, but to me it just seems dumb.
It's almost certainly getting a fans-only recommendation, but I want to put a couple more hours into it. Johnny?
Yeah.
You've spoken up in defense of Fight Kick here. Do you want to throw anything in here? What do you think?
No, you're pretty much saying everything that I had wanted to say about it, is that it's really a distillation of all the complicated extras that show up in fighting games down to, like, pure interaction. Like, it's all about the interaction. That's what it is. It's got nothing to do with memorizing moves. It's got nothing to do with, getting a deeper, like, stable of who's your second and who's your primary, or getting to know this one character, but then choosing another one if you have to, blah, 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 blah. It's just about, like, it's pure mechanics. It's all about the social interaction. Some of my favorite board games out there are really crappy board games when you sit down and look at the way the games play. But the reason why they're so good is because of how much they rely on the people that you have around the table to make the game fun. And then to play that game with that one person or that group of people or something like that really brings out why you make that game. Like, I'm not a huge fighting game fan either, because I kind of got done with them like years ago. It started after the whole like Street Fighter Alpha thing started, and then you were getting into like Mortal Kombat. I don't even remember. That must have been like Mortal Kombat 3-ish. Around there or something like that, I just started to not see where fighting games were going, but I can totally appreciate that Divekick is basically just like taking that whole mechanic and just being like the minimalist approach.
Yeah. It's like the Limbo of fighting games.
yeah, almost,
Yeah. I'll have more thoughts in my review, which I hopefully I can get up as soon as possible, but don't listen to Taylor. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Roar.
Okay, here we're going to loop back to the beginning of this conversation. We touched on the Wonderful 101, which I played. I already gave my thoughts on it. As far as I played it, I am basically in agreement with Yusuf. I think the camera is in this weird no man's land of being both too close and too far away. Like it's such a strange thing to say out loud, but I think if you get your hands on it, you'll see what I'm talking about. Also, it seems like it's trying to combine like Pikmin and Okami, and it doesn't really work. Here's where I'm really going with this, is in his review, he called it offensive, and I saw a lot of buzz on the internet, because once again, thousands of people are talking about this review. People saying that he was, being like too PC and too sensitive. I saw people in fucking Spain were talking about this. I read Spanish, so I was going through like some of the Spanish language threads on it, and people even in other fucking continents, people were calling Yusuf a wuss for being offended by the Wonderful 101. Wow. And his complaint was basically like, it's a send-up of Super Sentai shows. I'm sure you guys are aware of like Power Rangers and stuff.
Sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And in those, like, the Yellow Ranger was an Asian woman. The Black Ranger was a black person, right? Like, it's kind of offensive. And they carry that tradition on the Wonderful 101. Like, the Girl Ranger is pink. The black guy is the black one. The thing that really got under Yusuf's crawl was, like, the French one. And they're always, like, every other line of dialogue is like, oh, shove a baguette in it, It's just like constantly on his ass about being French. I don't want to go into too much. Do you guys, how far is too far on that kind of stuff? Where's the line of it being offensive?
I mean, I don't know. I don't really get offended by that kind of stuff, so I don't know if I'm the right person to ask. I saw the previews, or I saw the giant trailer when they were doing like the Wonderful 101 specific Nintendo Direct, and that trailer was like 8 minutes long or something. And They pretty much spoiled like the whole game. But yeah, I was noticing like, oh, okay, the girl's pink, and then yeah. But it's like obviously a parody of the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I was willing to give it a certain leeway. I said they're sending up these classic tropes. I don't have any problem with that. I don't even have any problem with some light nationality or gender or race humor. There's nothing wrong with being a little edgy as long as you're having fun with it.
I get offended by lazy writing.
That's the thing, though. It feels like it's just piling stereotype on top of stereotype, and not really. It's all low hanging fruit, and to me, that is more offensive.
It's laziness. It's absolute and utter laziness.
And as I was saying earlier, I played God Hand this week, guys, which was by Clover, which is the studio that Platinum was before they were Platinum. And I'm trying not to get worked up. I skipped God Hand back in the day because it got terrible reviews, like 3s, 4s, 5s, like out of 10. No one liked it. And since then, it's become a cult hit. Like, people remember it fondly, and there's a lot of fans of it who say, oh, that people back in the day just didn't get it. It's it was too hard for them. It's really like hardcore beat 'em up, and it just wasn't appreciated. And playing it, I gotta say, I did not enjoy God Hand. I think I like some of the things it was doing. I think some of the bosses are cool, and I like the difficulty, which it has a scaling dynamic difficulty. Like, the better you do, the harder it gets, and the more you get hit, the easier it gets. That is clever, and it's something that takes more effort than it would have been to just do damage normally. And I always appreciate when people go the extra mile to try something different. But the game is pretty hateful as far as it seems to hate fat people, it seems to hate women, it seems to hate gay people, it seems to hate just about every possible like section of society it can. And like I'm willing to give a certain latitude to edgy humor, but when like the camera is like basically trying to force its way up the love interest's fucking ass, like that's not funny anymore. Like, that's just weird. And it's like the first there's these two bosses you fight really early, and they're just like flaming stereotypes, just the gayest. Like, they're in fucking like they're like lisping and in leather, and it's so it doesn't seem like we're laughing with anyone. And it's like the one female villain. There's a bunch of villains, but the only female one is like all she does is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna seduce him. I'm gonna use my wiles. It's I don't know, guys. God Hand just seems really unpleasant. It seems like it was made by people who were either trying too hard or just don't like other people. I don't know. I don't think you guys have ever played God Hand, but
No, it doesn't ring a bell.
I've heard of it. That's what you said is all I know of it. Like, it got bad reviews back in the day, but it's like this cult classic and it's awesome and everybody needs to play it. But I've never played it. It looked like basically a 3D beat 'em up game.
It's a pretty standard beat 'em up except for the boss fights. The boss fights are hella good. If Platinum Clover is good at anything, any of those employees, they know how to make a damn good boss fight, and they are good. It's mechanically that you get killed in like 2 shots. You got to be quick. You got to be smart. You got to manage your like super bar and your limited roulette attacks. It's good stuff. But like all the fights in between are basically just padding and filler. And I was not okay with just how vindictive it seemed. Like the character just walks around calling people fat. Like get out of here, fatty. Like I don't know. Like why are you being a dick? Like it's not even like he's an anti-hero. He's like the good guy, pretty unequivocally. I don't even know why he's just being a dick to everyone. Maybe I'm just being a wiener about this, but I'm not okay with things being mean-spirited for no particular reason. Like, I've had this argument with Sean. He doesn't like Saints Row because you play the villains, basically. You're just sociopathic murderers. And I'm like, but they're...
It's winking at itself.
It's having fun with it. It's like, yeah come on, join the party. Let's go around killing people. It's not real giant dildos. Like, whatever. It's not like, people are scum. Let's cut their hearts out.
No, that is definitely one place where Saints Row manages to exceed other games based around anti-heroes.
Yeah, and I wanted to get my panties in a bunch about one more game, if I may.
Yeah.
I played Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations, which is the third Phoenix Wright game. I don't think we have time to explain the Phoenix Wright timeline because it's a huge... goddamn clusterfuck. I'm kind of tired of hearing the sound of my own voice. Taylor, do you want to tell us why you gave up on Ace Attorney? I know you didn't like the first one, I think.
Yeah, I played the first one. So to me, I liked the courtroom scenes, like trying to figure out, like, okay, what evidence do I present at one time? Sometimes it's really unclear what you're supposed to present at what time, and I just kept doing it over and over. But the really tedious part is doing the investigating, like trying to find the clues that you present. Like you're just, at some points, you're just like literally going to every location and tapping on everything, and it's just so tedious. And at one point I'm just like, this just isn't fun anymore. I'm done with this.
Yeah, visual novels are already a niche, but then when you have visual novels with like obtuse logic puzzles that aren't very well translated, I don't blame anyone for giving up on Ace Attorney, and I'm surprised. People are kind of upset that Ace Attorney Dual Destinies is going to be download only, but I don't even think Capcom should bother. I want it really bad. I want to be very clear, but I don't think Capcom financially should bother translating it. I don't think they're going to make any money because it's already a very small fan base, and I don't think they're going to get any new fans because it's just so niche.
Well, what do you think about the Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney game?
Professor Layton sells better, and it is more accessible. So I think that's an investment worth looking into, and it actually could funnel new fans into Ace Attorney. So I think all around that's good. I'm dying to play it. I love Professor Layton like so much, as you probably know by now. The trilogy, the first 3 Phoenix Wright games for the Game Boy Advance, I think. They were later ported to the DS and Wii, but I think the one you played and the 3 I've played, their biggest impediment really is the localization, which is kind of rough in a lot of spots. There are like misspellings and grammatical stuff, but they're funny. They have good characters, good music. There's some cool plot twists. I'm gonna play the Edgeworth and Apollo Justice games next, which are the modern ones. They have a lot of gameplay improvements, so hopefully that goes over well.
Before we change subjects, real quick, do you think there's a chance that Professor Layton gets in the new Super Smash Brothers?
Oh, man. Apparently, from what I understand, they are not too interested in putting many more third-party characters in it. I know Mega Man was like the big third-party dude, but I think that might be the exception.
Well, technically, isn't Professor Layton published by Nintendo? Even though it's made by Level 5?
Yeah, they do publish it, but I don't know how those contracts are structured. Obviously, like Level 5 worked with Sony for Ni no Kuni. There's no exclusivity there. So if Nintendo wanted to push Layton as a thing that people should be aware of, I would be more hopeful for that. But Level 5's interested in kind of winding down the Professor Layton. They said this will be the last traditional Professor Layton game, which means either we get a new character or like a new gameplay system, or they maybe make it all mobile phone games. I don't know. But I don't think Nintendo or Level 5 sees this breaking into like the mainstream as like the next Zelda.
That's true, but like you were saying, like they have some really dumb characters. Well, I shouldn't say dumb. They have some obscure characters, like, you know, Ice Climbers and Captain Olimar and like all these guys. I feel like Professor Layton has enough mind share that he would be worth putting in.
I'm really sorry to do this to you, but I'm afraid I gotta jump ship.
Okay.
Alrighty, sir.
We'll wrap it up after.
I'll speak to you gentlemen later.
Bye, Johnny.
Take care.
Johnny.
Good night.
We could play Guess the Character with Super Smash Bros. All day long, but I want to see Professor Layton. I gave Marvel vs. Capcom 3 a lot of guff for a lot of various things, but them adding Phoenix Wright to Ultimate was like a stroke of brilliance. Like that took thinking outside the box, and it was cool. And if they did something like that with Layton, I would be super into it.
Well, that's why I'm saying, I'm like they did that with Phoenix Wright, so I feel like there's a shot that they could put in Layton. I think that's like a Hail Mary, like, oh shit. I mean, they put in the goddamn Wii U Fit trainer. I mean, they could put in Professor Layton. Come on.
You would think, yeah.
But anyway,
Super Smash Brothers, you can never predict Super Smash Brothers, man. What are Ice Climbers doing there, man? They're not doing anything with Ice Climbers. Like
exactly.
I want to see like a gritty, like Tomb Raider style reboot of Ice Climbers. Like the female Ice Climber falls down a ravine and gets impaled on a rock, and then she has to like bandage herself up and like crawl up the mountain while the male Ice Climber is fighting off natives with an axe. Like, that'd be fucking great. Where was I going with? Oh, Ace Attorney 3.
Yeah.
I do not blame you for jumping ship on Ace Attorney, because I realized partway through 3 that I wasn't having fun. The conclusion I came to is Ace Attorney should be an anime series. I want to see the characters, I want to see the cases, I want to see everything it has to offer, but I don't want to play it very much. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, would you watch Ace Attorney the anime?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I like the characters. Like his little secretary chick is cute and funny. Like Phoenix Wright himself as a character is pretty funny. Even his rival is interesting. He's such a dick, but he's like a good character to have in the show or in the game. I think it would work well as an anime. Speaking of which, I really want to watch Professor Layton and Eternal Diva, since you've regularly said it's the best video game movie. Not to get too far off topic, but that's something you've mentioned before.
No, I don't even think it's off topic. Yeah, that's the best adaptation I've ever seen from video games, because it keeps everything while still being its own entity, which is pretty sweet. I think I'm hoping to see what the new Ace Attorney games bring, Apollo Justice and Edgeworth, because the original formula was kind of getting stale to begin with, and there's problems with it. Like you said, it's not even so much the going to every like board and clicking on everything, like during the investigation phase. To me, it's like having to present every piece of evidence to every character to unlock the one line of questioning. You know what I'm saying?
God, yeah, it's so tedious. It's just like, this isn't fun after a while.
Yeah, that's really the thing, is it's just not fun at a certain point, and it's a shame because it has so much to offer, and I'm not at all surprised it's not a huge smashing success. So, also, once again, if I'm going to get my panties in a twist about anything, Trials and Tribulations is weirdly homophobic. There's a gay Frenchman who shows up at one point, and he's like, he hits on all the male characters relentlessly, and he's like weirdly effeminate. People keep calling him a woman. I imagine in the original translation that was like the way that pronouns are conjugated in Japanese. I don't know if you know about that, but like everything is conjugated, male or female. So I imagine they were calling him. They would all use the female conjugation, which I think it would. I don't know how offended I should be by that. Whatever.
Japan has such a very like androgynous culture. Like everybody dresses like a guy or a girl, and nobody cares. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if something just got lost in translation or something.
It's not even that way he dresses. He just dresses like a chef, but he's like of basically a giant like stereotype. He's really like sexually forward, and he's always like using all this kind of language And he's like, it's also a bunch of negative stereotypes too. Like he's kind of, I don't know, like conniving. It's weird. I don't know. It's I've always liked about the Ace Attorney games is that there's a lot of like male and female characters with varying personalities. You know, there's strong and weak and smart and dumb and skilled and unskilled versions of everyone basically. Mm-hmm. But that one character just seemed to me a little distasteful. And the game came out in 2004. You know, times change, whatever. That's just a thing that stuck out to me. So I'm such a bleeding heart jerk sometimes, huh?
Why?
Because I'm always like, that's offensive. I take offense to that.
So wait, is there anything you wanted to wrap up before we ruin the end of Unwound Future?
Oh yeah, I'm playing Hate Plus right now. My review should be up for that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
It was going to be DLC, but it's a full-blown sequel to the only visual novel on Steam, and it's very well written. Although if you probably won't enjoy it if your politics are not of the same leaning, I will say. But
it's
hopefully
sort of Korean or something, right? It's not supposed to be Japanese. Like I read a lot of menus. It's in Korean or something, right?
It's very, very Korean. Yeah,
I'll love it then.
The Korean language is a plot point at one point. The way it's written, all the names are Korean. It's based on a certain point in culture in Korean history, at the Josei dynasty, I think it's called.
Okay.
It's very entrenched in that culture. So that's what I'm playing also. But I don't really want to start any new topics from there because we're running out of time. So, sure. Spoilers. Do you want to say spoilers?
Spoilers.
Professor Layton and the Unwound Future is a game in which the characters believe they find themselves in a different time. And that is not the case.
How they managed to essentially recreate the town underground is beyond me.
Yes. The plot twist is that the whole time you were in a recreation of London, under London, which is, I understand that it's kind of like a silly, not to be taken seriously, like a little puzzle adventure, but the idea is is that cave naturally forming? Is there a cave the size of London under London? If not, who excavated it and how did no one notice?
And then at one point, now it's been a while since I've played it, but at one point this guy drives this giant mech robot and starts destroying everything.
Yeah, that's the action climax. Is the bad guy drives his giant spider tank out of it into the city of London, completely by all rights, the city of London should collapse into this chasm, killing everyone.
That's true. Yeah.
This should be the UK's 9/11 at this point. But I don't think there's one confirmed fatality in the entire thing. It's all kind of played for Errol Flynn danger.
Yeah.
It's really goofy, but it works, I guess.
There's a funny part when everything's falling apart and Layton's driving around in the Layton-mobile and he's driving around all these cliffs like it's fucking Fast and the Furious or something.
Yeah, every game. You could play a drinking game with Professor Layton. It's now is the part where Layton pulls a skill out of his ass. And in the second one, it's sword fighting. He just suddenly is a fucking expert fencer out of nowhere. That's the one that I got.
That's right.
But in the fourth one, yeah, he's just now I am at the Indy 500. I'm gonna tear this shit up.
Well, I think in the same game he makes a machine gun out of a casino machine or something.
Oh yeah, that's where it's great too. He's yes, now
he gets in this giant ass gunfight.
Excuse me while I Gears of War our way out of the situation.
It got really hectic because I was oh, this is a charming little Nintendo game, and then Professor's look out, motherfucker! I'm gonna beat your ass with this.
That reminds me of a puzzle, motherfucker.
Oh God.
Yeah, all the games have really dumb endings. It wouldn't be the same without them. So I've come to enjoy them, but yeah, they don't stand up to even the slightest shred of logic.
Oh, no way. Well, you know what I always find really strange is, like, level 5 is, like, deeply rooted in RPGs. Like, they started with Dark Cloud and Rogue Galaxy and Dragon Quest, and then they, like, do this weird handheld puzzle game. I gotta wonder, like, how they decided to, like, branch off and do that. Do you know any of the history behind how and why they started the Layton series?
Ah, man, I actually do not. I imagine it had something to do with the Nintendo DS install base. Anyone with half a brain jumped on that bitch. That was the place to be for a while, and it just kind of took off. So I imagine they just wrote it.
Well, that's why Dragon Quest IX was on DS, I assume, right?
Yeah. Wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, it was, but it was kind of strange that it was. That's like having, like, Final Fantasy 16 being on the 3DS or something.
Which, honestly, Square probably should have, at some point, transitioned Final Fantasy to mobile for a couple of reasons. One is that development costs are much lower.
Yeah, development costs is nothing else.
And two, the install base. The DS, it was the system. And that's everyone made mad cash over there, while most companies struggled to even turn a profit on the PS3 and Xbox 360.
Oh, good times. Yeah. You know, I would, like, I'm not even kidding, I would kill to have, like, a classic Final Fantasy or, like, Legend of Dragoon Chrono sequel on the 3DS. Like, I would be totally okay with that.
It's called Bravely Default.
I was just going to say that. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what Bravely Default is. And I can't fucking wait. It's going to be amazing.
I hope so. I've heard good things. It's supposed to be everything you just said.
Oh, man, I can't wait. In Europe, you know what? Europe is getting a bunch of stuff before us. And usually it's the other way around. Like, they already have the Wonderful 101, like you said. I think they're getting Bravely Default this year, and same with the new Professor Layton, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they got Pikmin and Mario and Luigi Dream Team before us as well.
Fucking Nintendo.
It's weird, because usually the UK gets fucked on those kind of things, but recently, as long as we get it, I'm of the opinion that I don't care how long it takes, as long as we get it. That's all that matters to me, because my backlog is cataclysmic at this point.
Oh my God!
They speak of it in Legends.
Well, yeah, mine too. Like, I've been, like, trudging away at Project Cross Zone and Etrian Odyssey 4 for like 2 months.
I got to mission like 35 in Cross Zone, and I was like, that's good.
Yeah, no, you're literally just doing the same thing. It's like, oh, here's some guys. Oh wait, here's some more guys. Oh wait, here's some more guys.
I met all the characters, saw all the attacks, saw where the story was going, and I put it back in the box.
Yeah, I'm close to doing that because I've gotten about 30-something hours out of it. I'm like, I don't know what else there is to see. I'm not at this point. I'm literally skipping through all the dialogue because I just don't give a shit anymore.
That's the sign of a good game.
I mean, I'm glad that we got it, and I'm happy to support it. But it's like, okay, yeah, I'm done with this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually the thought process with the Wonderful 101 is what I played I didn't enjoy, but I think I'll just buy it and just put it on the shelf and just be like, I supported Platinum. Hopefully Bayonetta 2 is a thing we are still getting.
So, speaking of just buying a game and putting it on the shelf, I am very torn about doing that with Killer is Dead because I love Xseed. Like, I bought, okay, here's the funny thing. I bought The Last Story, and I don't even own a Wii. I had to borrow my friend's Wii so I could play it.
I did the same thing with The Last Story and Xenoblade. I have a Wii now, but at the time I didn't. I was just like, I gotta buy these.
Exactly. And so I have a PS3, obviously, so I can play Killer is Dead, but I've heard it's like, you know, an 8-hour action game and then it's done. I'm like, man, $60? But it's Xseed, so I'm like really, really torn about what to do with that. And I still haven't finished Dragon's Crown, and I'm like almost done with Exilia, and then Puppeteer and Kingdom Hearts HD is going to come out. It's like, fuck, there's like too many games.
Yeah. Apparently Killer is Dead bombed in Japan.
Yeah, oh my God, I heard bad things about that.
Suda is such an anomaly. He should not be making games by any I mean, I enjoy them. I'm just saying any company with an accountant should run the other way when they see him, because he doesn't make critical successes. He doesn't make financial successes. All he does is make cult hits, and you can maybe do that in like the mobile or the indie space, but doing full-fledged console games, that ship is rapidly sinking.
I was gonna say, how do you think he keeps getting away with it? Because there was like Dead. What was the one? Dead something.
He made Shadows of the Damned.
Shadows of the Damned. That was the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah. Shadows of the Damned got fucked by EA. They put out like one trailer for that, and then like dumped it in stores.
You know, that's what I heard. I was talking to a bunch of people at GameStop. They're like, we barely got any copies of that game. It's not like people didn't buy it. It's just there weren't many copies to go around, period. And then the Lollipop Chainsaw probably just sold on sex appeal.
Yeah, Lollipop Chainsaw was the biggest success he's ever had, and that's because they put posters of Juliet in GameStop, and people were like, what's that? And they're like, it's a zombie game. And like, zombie game? Fucking the War Z sold like 100 million copies.
Yeah.
So people will buy anything with zombies in it. Zombies and tits is just cake.
Yeah, right?
Not to say that the Lollipop Chainsaw isn't like, worthwhile on any merits. I enjoy parts of it. I'm just saying that was a kind of, it could have been shit and still sold pretty well.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, I love everything that Killer is Dead is about. Like, the art style is really neat. The combat seems really cool. I just love the weird setting. Like, it's everything that I want in a game, but I don't want to pay $60 for it. Like, that seems like a $40 game to me, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's that kind of game, like the double A. I don't know if you want to say like the second tier kind of action thing. That's dead. Like Platinum and Grasshopper are really the only people in that game, and they're bleeding cash so bad. So it's a shame. I think they'll either move to a smaller price point, like Anarchy Reigns came out at $30. So I hope that was
interesting.
I haven't seen the figures on that. I hope it was a success, not only because they actually experimented with the MSRP, but because I enjoyed it. But people tended to dismiss those games. They're like, oh, it's $30, it must not be good.
Well, see, I like what Sony's doing because they sold Sly Cooper at $40, and from what I understand, that was a top 10 game on the NPD that month. I think it met or slightly exceeded Sony's expectations, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're doing the same thing with Puppeteer, and Puppeteer looks fucking awesome. I can't wait for Puppeteer.
I mean, ideally, we would have like 3 tiers of games, right? We'd have like the indie stuff, that's like the $5, $10 stuff. We would have like a middle tier, like a $30, $40 stuff, and then like 60. That's like your Grand Theft Auto, your Skyrim, your Call of Duty, your Madden.
Sure.
But people aren't accepting that. They both want to pay more and don't. You know what I'm saying? People like they balk at free to play, they balk at 60, and anywhere in the middle is seen as like a cowardly compromise.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think we're intelligent enough and like we get what they're doing with that to be like, yeah, Puppeteer is probably going to be quality even though it's $40, and so on and so forth. Dragon's Crown, it was only $50, but it's going to be a good game. But I think you're right.
Dragon's Crown sold like gangbusters for a couple reasons. One is the controversy. That's just free attention.
Sure.
Also, the fact that it's on Vita and PS3 is I think is really cool because it's the kind of game you can play in short bursts or on the couch. And I just feel like it was the right time. It was like a slow release week, and the price was right. It was just all the factors lined up, and it hit it. It was good. I don't ever want to play it, but I'm super happy it succeeded.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, I think once I started playing the game, like, I didn't even pay attention to the art style. I can understand why people wouldn't want to because of that, but like, yeah, it went away as soon as I started playing. Hey, did you know that Atlas developed the Karate Kid game on NES?
No way.
Yeah.
What?
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, Atlas Co. There you go. That's a thing. Jeez. There's a lot of that stuff if you look at like history of video games. You're like, what? Like Capcom was involved in so much stuff in like the late 80s. You're just like, they did what?
Apparently Square Enix or Squaresoft developed Rad Racer on the NES.
Almost every Japanese company, I know Squaresoft and Enix in particular, started off doing porn games. But I mean, even Nintendo, they didn't do like outright porn, but they did like, naughty lady trading cards and stuff.
Sure.
So, but I think it's funny. If you look back in almost every Japanese company's history, they started off less than legit. That's always funny to me.
Well, I was, not too long ago, I was looking at Atlas and like how long it took them to localize games, like the Japan release and then the American release. Like, lately, the last couple Persona games have only been 4 or 5 months. Like, Golden was only 4 or 5 months. Same with Catherine. Same with Persona 3 Portable, but like before that it was like a year. I think on PS2 for Persona 4 it was like a year or something, or a significant jump in time.
That whole process is becoming much more streamlined across most publishers. I know like Nintendo's finally doing their first worldwide Pokemon release simultaneously in all regions. I think someday that will be the norm, is that they will have it down to a science, you know. Start the German translation and the French translation and the English translation all on the right time schedule to get it all done at the same time. And then it's just done and ready to go.
Well, that's what it sounds like Namco's doing with the Tales games, because they're releasing 2 Tales games next year, and then it was weird to me that they announced Xillia 2 before the first one even came out.
Yeah, we talked about that on the show. It's like either they're really confident or they've reached a point where it's cheap enough to not matter.
Because those, I have to imagine, take a long time to localize, because everything's voiced and there's so much text. And
there's like 500 skits.
Yeah, oh God, the skits. Yeah, I forgot about those. And those are all voiced, too.
Yeah.
Did you notice who the voice actors were in Xillia? You said you played it a little bit, right?
I just fired it up. I like installed it, and I was like, that's the opening cutscene. I am going to go play Dive Kick.
Okay, then never mind. Because if you played Persona 4 Golden, then you're going to notice quite a few familiar voices.
Speaking of Persona voice actors, Dojima is the bad guy in Saints Row 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's glorious.
Wait, Dojima, that's Nanako's dad, right?
Yeah, Ryotaro Dojima.
Nice.
So every time he's like...
Kanji versus Dojima.
Every time he's like, I'm going to get you, I'm just... I'm like cracking up. He's like, did you hear that Arc System Works wanted to make Dojima playable in Persona Arena and have, instead of a Persona, Nanako be like his helper character thing? And Atlas was like, no, why would you? I think the direct quote was, why would you even ask that?
That would be so fucking awesome.
It would be. Did you hear the latest? John Harden told Joystick that the new Persona Arena update isn't coming to North America at this time.
That's fine. I wouldn't have got it anyway.
You don't like fighting games.
I really tried to give it a chance. Like, even when EVO was happening, like, our office has Persona 4 Arena, and we have fight sticks and everything, and we were like getting really into it, and then I was just like, I just suck at these games, and I don't want to spend the time to get good at them.
Yeah. It's not for you, it's not for you, but
Do you think we'll see Persona 5 by the end of next year?
We'll see something of it. We won't see it in stores necessarily.
Oh, don't say that. I was hoping we could get Versus 13 or Final Fantasy 15 and Persona 5 in the same year. That would be fucking nuts. My JRPG head would just explode.
When Persona 5 does come out, you're gonna fucking just like take a fucking vacation from work. You're gonna just shut down your Twitter and your Facebook. just completely withdraw from society. You'll emerge like 2 weeks later with like, food, help me.
You have no idea. I will probably do just that.
You brought this on yourself, Taylor.
Well, the first time I ever did that was with The Last of Us, because it came out on a Friday. Mm-hmm. It was a worldwide release on a Friday, and I took Friday off, and I just sat and played it all day, and it was amazing. I've never done that before. It felt so good.
It occurs to me that without Johnny, we have to end the show.
Oh, yeah, we're still just talking, huh?
I don't know if... I'll probably leave some of that in. Who knows?
Yeah, I gotta go back to editing my Xillia video.
Yeah, hurry up.
Yeah, did you see my tweet? I'm leaving for Korea on Thursday?
Probably.
Okay, yeah. But, yeah, so I actually have another episode already made. So I'm going to have the Xillia video up Friday, and then 2 weeks from then, it'll just be ready to go. And it's an import game that a lot of people were hoping would get localized, and I think a lot of people are interested in. So hopefully it's a good one.
All right. So, bye.
Bye. Dev Kick sucks. I mean, what?